What is up, everyone? My name is Joseph, and welcome back to Casually Competitive MTG, where it's our goal to bring you semi-competitive EDH gameplay content that's both fast-paced and entertaining. We have a great game for you today between the commanders Zaxara the Exemplary, Sygg, River, Cutthroat, the partner commanders Kodama of the East Tree and Vial Smasher the Fierce, and finally the partner commanders Tymna the Weaver and Sidar Kondo of Jamura. Before we get into the opening hands and deck introductions, we do have a few quick channel promotions. First, if you haven't heard already, Alter Sleeves, who sponsors us, are doing a Kickstarter right now for some really cool looking sleeves. These are sleeves that you can put in your entire deck, your land cards, your artifacts, just generic frames that look really unique and cool. So go ahead and check out that Kickstarter if you haven't already. And if you're just looking to pick up some Alter Sleeves, we have an affiliate link in the description, so be sure to click on that before you do to help support the channel. If you're looking for other ways to support us, we have a Patreon link in the description as well. We really do appreciate everyone who helps support us in that way. And if you're thinking about signing up, we do have a few videos planned for the very near future just for Patreon. One gameplay video that will be released very soon, and another one, a pod discussion video we're going to start doing where we go over the discussion for how we select our pods or the commanders for the pods, so be on the lookout for that. We also have a TCG affiliate link in the description. If you are planning on buying cards, click on that link before you do. It directly helps out the channel at no cost to you. And finally, we have an affiliate with Flipside Gaming where if you use our code CasuallyMTG at checkout, you'll receive a discount and also help out the channel. Now with that all out of the way, let's get into the opening hands and deck introductions. I went first in this game playing Sygg, River, Cutthroat. This Dimir value-based deck uses Sygg's ability in order to generate just massive amounts of card advantage to control the board while looking for a win using Demonic Consultation and Thassa's Oracle. Between fetches, shocks, mana crypts, Sygg can get a significant amount of value, so getting him out early is an absolute must in this deck. My opening hand contained a Morphic Pool, a Swamp, a Manamo, School at Water's Edge, a Lotus Petal, a Sensei's Divining Top, a Windfall, and a Spellseeker. Adam went second in this game playing the partner commanders Tymna the Weaver and Sidar Kondo of Jamura. This is a stacks/hate bears deck that's focused on slowing down the game and assembling a combat damage based win or a new combo involving the new card Witherbloom Apprentice and Chain of Smog. Adam's opening hand contained a snow-covered forest, a wooded foothills, a Sol Ring, a Fintorn Elves, a crop rotation, a mirror entity, and a Chord of Calling. Going next was Jordan playing partner commanders Kodama of the East Tree and Vial Smasher the Fierce. The general goal of this deck is to win using a Kikejiki or Splinter Twin based combo line, and it uses some cheeky reanimation effects with cards like Razakath in order to get there faster. There are also quite a few cards in this deck that look to utilize Kodama's ability in order to kind of sneak things around counterspells, since Kodama just puts things onto the battlefield, it doesn't cast them. Jordan's opening hand contained a Blood Crypt, a City of Brass, a Utopia Sprawl, a Mana Vault, a Sylvan Library, a Zealous Conscripts, and a Cabal Ritual. And finally, going last was Bill playing Zaxara the Exemplary. This is another pseudo-controlled deck with the goal of generating infinite mana using Zaxara in combination with a card like Freed from the Real in order to generate infinite mana. The mana dumps or the outlets in this deck include cards like Blue Sun Zenith, Pull from Tomorrow, and even Villainous Wealth. Bill's opening hand contained a City of Brass, a Polluted Delta, a Carpet of Flowers, a Mystic Remora, a Mana Drain, a Thrasios Triton Hero, and a Rhystic Study. Remember, if you want to watch these games live, we stream them on Sundays to our Twitch channel, link is in the description for that. And now with the opening hands out of the way, let's get into the gameplay. Joseph starts off this game by drawing, playing a Morphic Pool as his land for turn, and then casting a Lotus Petal for 0 mana. He then cracks the Lotus Petal for a blue and uses his Morphic Pool to cast his commander, Sygg, River, Cutthroat. With nothing left, he passes the turn to Adam. Adam draws, plays a snow-covered forest, and then for 1 mana casts a Sol Ring. With nothing left, he passes to Jordan. Jordan draws, plays a City of Brass, and then taps it, taking 1 damage to cast a Deathrite Shaman. The Shaman resolves, and Jordan, with nothing left, gives the turn over to Bill. Bill on his turn draws, plays his own City of Brass as his land for turn, and also taps it, taking 1 damage to cast a Mystic Remora. The Remora resolves, and Bill, with nothing left, passes the turn to Joseph. Joseph untaps, plays a Manamo, School at Water's Edge as his land for turn, and then goes to combat and swings Sygg at Bill. Bill takes the 1 damage, and Joseph, with nothing left, passes to Adam. Adam draws, plays a Wooded Foothills as his land for turn, and then pays 1 life to crack it, shocking in an Overgrown Tomb, losing 2 more life. He then, for 2 mana, casts a Destiny Spinner, floating a colorless from the Sol Ring, and he then casts a Bitter Blossom. He does not pay for Bill's Mystic Remora, so he draws, and then he goes to pass the turn to Jordan, and on Adam's end step, Joseph draws a card since Adam took 3 damage that turn. Jordan then goes to his turn, untaps, shocks in a Blood Crypt, losing 2 life, and then uses his Deathrite Shaman to exile Adam's Wooded Foothills to make enough mana to help cast a Sylvan Library. With nothing left, Jordan gives the turn to Bill. Bill untaps and in his upkeep takes a damage from City of Brass to pay for the Mystic Remora upkeep cost. He then goes to his first main phase, plays a Polluted Delta as his land for turn, and then goes to pass the turn to Joseph and discards a Mystic Reflection due to hand size. Joseph then goes to his turn, untaps, plays a Flooded Strand as his land for turn, and then pays 1 life to crack it to search up a snow-covered island to the battlefield. He then goes to combat and swings 1 damage at Bill. Bill takes the damage, and in his second main phase, Joseph casts a Spellseeker. The Spellseeker resolves and enters the battlefield, and when it enters the battlefield, he searches a Demonic Consultation to his hand. With nothing left, Joseph passes to Adam. Adam untaps and in his upkeep loses 1 life to Bitter Blossom, making a fairy token. He then in his first main phase for 1 green mana casts a Crop Rotation, sacrificing his snow-covered forest as an additional cost. He does not pay for Mystic Remora, so Bill draws, and off of this Crop Rotation, he gets a Temple Guard into the battlefield and he shocks it in, losing 2 more life. He then for a green mana casts a Findhorn Elves. He then goes to combat and swings Destiny Spinner at Bill. And he then goes to pass the turn to Jordan, and on Adam's end step, Joseph draws a card from the Sygg trigger since Adam lost 3 life that turn. Jordan then goes to his turn, untaps, draws 2 additional cards due to Sylvan Library, and takes 8 damage to keep all 3 cards. He then plays a Nurturing Peatland as his land for turn, and then for 1 mana he casts a Mana Vault, not paying for Bill's Mystic Remora. He then taps Deathrite Shaman to exile Joseph's Flooded Strand to make enough mana to help cast his commander, Kodama of the East Tree. Kodama resolves, enters the battlefield, and Jordan then goes to pass the turn to Bill, and on Jordan's end step, Joseph draws a card from the Sygg trigger. Still in Jordan's end step, Bill cracks his Polluted Delta to get a Breeding Pool to the battlefield and has it enter tapped. Bill then goes to his turn, untaps, and decides in his upkeep to not pay for Mystic Remora, and he lets it go to his graveyard. He then plays a Twilight Mire as his land for turn, and he then pays 2 life for the Phyrexian mana on a Gataxian Probe targeting Joseph. Joseph reveals his hand to Bill, and Bill then, for a green mana, casts a Carpet of Flowers. He then goes to his second main phase and targets Joseph with the Carpet of Flowers trigger to make 1 blue mana. He uses this blue mana to help cast a Rhystic Study, and in response to the Rhystic Study, Adam casts a Vampiric Tutor. The Vampiric Tutor resolves, and Adam finds a card and puts it to the top of his library and loses 2 life. The Rhystic Study then resolves, and Bill with nothing left goes to pass the turn, and on his end step, Joseph draws a card since Bill lost 3 life that turn. Joseph then goes to his turn, untaps, plays an Underground River as his land, and then for 1 mana casts a Mystic Remora, paying for the Rhystic Study. He then goes to combat and swings a total of 2 damage at Bill, who declares no blockers, and Bill takes the damage. Joseph with nothing left passes the turn to Adam. Adam untaps and in his upkeep again loses 1 life to Bitter Blossom and creates a fairy token. He then casts a Strict Proctor, paying for the Rhystic Study. The Strict Proctor resolves, and Adam with nothing left passes the turn to Jordan. Jordan untaps and in his draw step takes 1 damage from Mana Vault remaining tapped. He then draws his card for turn and decides to keep no additional cards from Sylvan Library, paying no life. He then for 2 life shocks in a Stomping Ground. He then loses 1 life to tap Nurturing Peatland for a colored mana in order to cast a Llanowar Elves, not paying for Bill's Rhystic Study. Kodama triggers off of this, and Strict Proctor triggers, making Jordan pay 2 mana for the Kodama trigger to resolve. Jordan pays the 2 mana, and from the Kodama trigger, he puts a Utopia Sprawl onto the battlefield, attaching it to his new Stomping Ground. When it enters the battlefield, he names black, and with nothing left, Jordan passes the turn to Bill. On his end step, of course, since he lost 3 life this turn, Joseph draws another card, and Bill then goes to his turn, untaps, and at the beginning of his first main phase, targets Joseph with his Carpet of Flowers in order to make 1 blue mana. He then plays a Hinterland Harbor as his land for turn, and then filters mana into his Twilight Mire to make 2 green mana to help cast a Findhorn Elves. He then uses the floating green from this and the Carpet of Flowers mana to cast Thrasios Triton Hero. With nothing left, Bill passes the turn to Joseph. Joseph untaps, and in his upkeep pays 1 mana to keep his Mystic Remora around. In his first main phase, he pays 2 life to have a Watery Grave enter the battlefield untapped, and then immediately goes to his end step and goes to pass the turn to Adam, and he discards a Windfall due to hand size. Adam untaps, and in his upkeep loses 1 life to Bitter Blossom to make a fairy token. He then casts one of his partner commanders, Tymna the Weaver, paying for Bill's Rhystic Study. He then goes to combat and swings one fairy token at Bill and one fairy token at Joseph. Both of the fairies connect, the damage is dealt, and Adam then pays 2 life to the Tymna trigger to draw 2 cards. With nothing left, he goes to pass the turn to Jordan, and on his end step, Joseph draws a card since Adam lost 3 life that turn. Still in this end step, Jordan activates his Deathrite Shaman to exile Bill's Gitaxian Probe in order to deal 2 damage to each of his opponents. Jordan then goes to his turn, untaps, takes 1 damage in his draw step from the Mana Vault remaining tapped. He draws 2 additional cards due to Sylvan Library and decides to pay no life and keep no extra cards. In his first main phase, he casts his other partner commander, Vial Smasher the Fierce, paying for Bill's Ristic Study, and with nothing left, Jordan passes the turn to Bill. Bill untaps and at the beginning of his first main phase targets Joseph again with his Carpet of Flowers, making 2 blue mana. He then plays an Urborg Tomb of Yawgmoth as his land for turn, and then taps it in order to filter mana into his Twilight Mire to make 1 green and 1 black mana. He then uses this mana to help cast his commander, Zaxara the Exemplary. He then goes to pass the turn to Joseph, and in Bill's end step, Joseph flashes out an Opposition Agent, paying for Bill's Ristic Study. In response to the Opposition Agent, Adam convokes out a Chord of Calling. He does not pay for either the Mystic or the Ristic, so Bill and Joseph both draw 1 card, and in response to the Chord of Calling, Bill casts a Miscast, not paying for Joseph's Mystic Remora, so he draws a card. Adam can't pay the additional mana, so the spell is countered, and the Opposition Agent then resolves. Joseph then goes to his turn, untaps, and in his upkeep pays 2 mana to keep the Remora around. He then plays a Shizo Death's Storehouse as his land for turn, and then goes to combat and swings a total of 3 damage at Adam. Adam takes the damage, and in Joseph's second main phase, he casts a Felwar Stone, not paying for Ristic Study. He then goes to pass the turn to Adam, and in his end step he draws a card since Adam lost 3 life that turn. He then continues through his end step, and since he has more than 7 cards he needs to discard, but in response to the cleanup phase, he decides to cast a Vampiric Tutor. He does not pay for Bill's Ristic Study, so Bill draws a card, and then Vampiric Tutor resolves and Joseph searches up a card to the top of his library. He then discards down to hand size, discarding a River of Tears, and Adam then goes to his turn. On Adam's turn, he untaps, loses 1 life in his upkeep due to Bitter Blossom to make a fairy token, and in his first main phase, he plays a Woodland Cemetery as his land for turn. He then pays 4 mana to cast a Mirror Entity, the extra mana being for Ristic Study, and in response to Mirror Entity, Bill casts a Mana Drain. He does not pay for Joseph's Mystic Remora, so he draws, and the Mana Drain then resolves, countering the spell. Adam then goes to combat and swings 3 fairies at Bill and the Strict Proctor at Joseph. The damage is dealt, and in his second main phase, Adam pays 2 life into Tymna's ability in order to draw 2 cards. He then goes to pass the turn to Jordan, and in Adam's end step, Joseph draws a card from Sygg since one of Joseph's opponents lost 3 or more life that turn. And still in Adam's end step, Jordan activates his Deathrite Shaman to exile the Vampiric Tutor from Joseph's graveyard to deal 2 damage to each of his opponents. Jordan then goes to his turn, untaps, takes 1 damage from Mana Vault remaining tapped, and draws 2 additional cards due to Sylvan Library. He decides to pay no life and only keeps 1 of these 3 cards, and in his first main phase, he casts a Toxic Deluge. He pays 3 life as an additional cost, and does not pay for the Ristic or the Mystic. Vial Smasher triggers on this cast, and randomly deals 3 damage to Bill. In response to the Toxic Deluge, Adam casts a Rushed Rebirth targeting Tymna. He pays for Ristic Study but does not pay for the Mystic Remora. In response to this, Jordan exiles Joseph's River of Tears with his Deathrite Shaman in order to make a green mana, and Bill floats a green mana with his Fintorn Elves. The Rushed Rebirth then resolves, and the Toxic then resolves, giving all creatures -3, basically killing everything except for Kodama. The Rebirth triggers on Tymna's death, and Adam searches a Scavenging Ooze to the battlefield, and it enters tapped. Jordan then casts an Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing Kodama as an additional cost, not paying for Ristic or for Mystic. It resolves and he searches up a Razaketh the Foul-Blooded to the battlefield. He then takes a damage from Sylvia Brass in order to generate mana to cast an Elvish Mystic. He does not pay for Bill's Ristic Study, and he then goes to move to his combat phase, and before his mana fizzles, Bill uses his green mana to cast a Noxious Revival, targeting the mana drain in his graveyard. He does not pay for Mystic Remora, so Joseph draws. The Noxious Revival then resolves, and then, with nothing left on his turn, Jordan passes the turn to Bill. Bill untaps, and at the beginning of his first main phase, targets Joseph with his Carpet of Flowers, making 2 green mana. He then gets 3 colorless mana from his mana drain, and he then plays a Tide Channel Pathway as his land for turn. He then casts a Destiny Spinner, and when that resolves, he recasts his commander. He then goes to pass the turn to Joseph and has to discard down to hand size and discards a Chrome Mox. Joseph then goes to his turn, untaps, does not pay for Mystic Remora, letting it go to his graveyard, and then plays a Reflecting Pool as his land for turn. He then for 2 blue mana casts a Thassa's Oracle. He pays an additional mana to pay for the Rhystic Study tax, and this resolves, and when the Thassa's Oracle enters the battlefield, in response to the ETB, Joseph casts a Demonic Consultation, again paying for Rhystic Study. In response, Bill attempts to counter it by casting a Mana Drain, targeting the Consultation. Joseph responds to the mana drain by casting a Delay for 3 mana, paying for the additional Rhystic Study tax, and Bill responds by casting a Veil of Summer, attempting to not only save his counterspells, but draw a card. Unfortunately for Bill, in response to this, Joseph pays 2 life to cast a Mental Misstep, targeting the Veil of Summer. He does not pay for Rhystic Study, so Bill draws a card, but unfortunately, with nothing left, the Mental Misstep resolves, countering the Veil of Summer, and the Delay then resolves, countering the Mana Drain, and the Demonic Consultation resolves. Joseph names a card that's not in his library, exiles his entire library, and then the Thassa's Oracle trigger resolves, and Joseph wins the game. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this game, and I know I'm a little bit biased, but I did have a lot of fun playing this game. I personally really enjoy playing Sygg specifically. I think in our power level of play being higher powered, not quite cEDH, as we do play shock lands over duels for the most part, it does get a lot of value, and it's really fun to play, and it gets, like I said at the beginning of the video, it gets a lot of value that I think a lot of people don't respect or don't expect. That being said, again, hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. If you want to see more from us or want to be alerted of when we upload another video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, and if you did enjoy the video, be sure to like the video. I also want to say a special thank you to our patrons. Your support really does go a far way, and we really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. That being said, that is all we have for you for this video. Hopefully you did enjoy it. I am Joseph, this is Casually Competitive MTG, and we will see you next time.